I'm gonna help you train like a minimalist with kettlebells. People often think that fitness needs to be really complex and take up your whole life, but it really doesn't. Honestly, you can build strength, muscle mass, cardio, and mobility with just one kettlebell for 1 hour a week. Not 1 hour a day, 1 hour a week. And as we get older and busier, that's really what we need. So in this video, I wanna break down 5 minimalist principles around kettlebell training that's going to help you feel better and move better. So the first principle is that you do not need a gym membership. You know, I really love the gym, but I can totally understand it's just might not be the vibe for everyone. And also from just a practical standpoint, it just takes a lot of time to drive to the gym. So buying one kettlebell allows you to, forego the gym membership and just have a great workout at home. You know, it can fit in your closet and you can get it at any time, and you cut all those commute hours. Think about how many hours it takes to commute to the gym. Over a year, it might be 500 to even 1,000 hours just based off how far the gym is from your home. And so yeah, buy one kettlebell, keep it in your closet, and do your workout whenever you can, especially if you're busy, you have kids or a really tough job. You don't need to go to that gym membership. And if you just, you're a bit more introverted and you want to stay at home, the kettlebell is minimal just in terms of the space. You don't need that gym membership. You just need a closet and keep it in there, or even a corner of a room. So I think that's, principle number 1 that I think is awesome about kettlebell training and might even just already change how you see fitness. So principle number 2 is that you don't need a million exercises. I think there's a lot of great workout programs out there, but it can be overwhelming if you're new and you get this workout program with 20, 30 exercises, or you see, a video out there with, your favorite celebrity doing, all this really complex circuits and, hitting every body part from the optimal angle. We're regular people. We don't need that. The great thing about kettlebells is that you can get everything you need with just a handful of exercises. At the end of the day, the foundational movements are squat, hinge, push, pull, and loaded carry, which essentially is just a fancy way of saying walking with a weight. And so with kettlebells, if you do a clean and press, a squat, and carry, you're really covering all those foundational movements. It might not be, the most optimal way to look like a bodybuilder, but it gets you everything you need to live a functional life, to carry groceries, to put suitcases overhead, to play with kids. It just gives you all of that. So you don't need a million exercises. You just need, I just mentioned 3. In my 2-day workout program, I just give you 3 exercises. And honestly, if you want to just start and you just feel a lot of barrier to start, you can literally start with 1 exercise. Start with just kettlebell carries, or start with just a kettlebell clean and press, or just start with a kettlebell squat. And that alone is will give you a general full body movement. And then honestly, once you get up to 3 to 4, you're set for life. So that's principle number 2. The third principle of minimal training is that you don't have to lift super heavy. I think that's also a myth that you need to just keep warming up your weights until you get really heavy and take all this time to rest in between sets. And that takes a lot of time, that takes a lot of energy, right? We also want to be efficient with our mental energy and our physical energy. And this is not an argument for picking up the lightest kettlebell you can find and do that. And this is instead finding, a sweet spot, a moderately heavy weight that gives you about a 7 out of 10 workout. And that's going to help you build that strength and muscle. You don't need to lift super heavy, because a lot of times lifting heavy takes a lot of time out of you. It takes a lot of mental energy and a lot of physical energy. It's not inherently bad, but this is, the minimalist approach is, go moderately heavy. You can also take shorter rest periods that way. And so that's going to also save you a lot of time, because you're not recovering just from getting all pumped up from lifting like the max weight you can lift. And so, yeah, you don't need to lift super heavy. I always say go moderately heavy. That's a 7 out of 10. Usually, a classic example is like a weight that you would do a clean and press about 10 times. And that's when it starts getting tough at, around that 9th or 10th rep. That's a weight that's going to challenge you, that's going to make you stronger, that's going to build muscle. But it's not going to beat you up. And specifically, why you don't need to lift super heavy with kettlebell training is that because of the nature of kettlebell movements, and that you're really doing full body movements, and you're, trying to get a lot of volume in every workout, meaning a lot of reps and sets in over the period of your workout, you don't need the heaviest weight. If you have a moderately heavy weight and you do, 30 clean and presses on each side, and you walk 500 steps total with a kettlebell, that's just a lot of volume for the body. And again, that doesn't mean you go super light, but if you go moderately heavy with a lot of that volume, you are going to get the results that you want. So that's principle number 3, that you don't need to lift super heavy. The fourth principle of minimalist training is that you don't need to train every day. Yeah, I'm gonna say it. No, the whole no days off thing, it's silly. Your body needs time to rest and recover from every workout to actually build the muscle and strength that you're looking for. And a lot of times the reasons that why a lot of workout programs are 4 days, 5 days, 6 days is because they're doing something called a body part split. And that's not inherently bad. That's actually great for like optimizing your bodybuilding routine, because you can just really target the muscles. But if you're just a regular person who wants to feel and move better, you do not need to do body part splits. And that's the great part of kettlebell training, because you're doing full body movements. And so by nature, every workout essentially hits the entire body. So if you think about it, if you do something like a body part split and you're working 5-6 days a week, you're actually only hitting each muscle group around a couple times a week. But instead, if you do 2 days a week of full body, or even 3 days a week of full body, you're actually, really targeting your body just as much in terms of the number of times you exercise your body each week. So for kettlebell training, there isn't like a chest day or bicep day or leg day even. It's just, it's more focused on the movements, your kettlebell clean and press day, or kettlebell squat day, kettlebell carry day, and those all work the entire body. And so, that I think also really helps in that you don't need to train every day. You don't need to live in the gym. 2 to 3 full body days a week is honestly perfect, and probably better, because you're not going to get burnt out. You're going to give your body time to rest. And that's in the long run, over months and years and decades, that's when you're going to see the fitness results that you want. And finally, the fifth principle is that your workouts do not need to be long. Again, I think, we tend to think that like, okay, if I go into the gym, my workout, if I'm not like living in the gym, if I'm not in the gym for an hour or 90 minutes or 2 hours, then did I really work out? So with kettlebell training, you're getting a lot of volume in a short amount of time. So, for example, to do a clean and press where you do 3 sets of 10 on each side with, let's say, a minute rest in between, that's 6 sets total. Each set, let's say that takes a minute. Let's say even takes 2 minutes. That's 12 minutes of clean and press and then another 6 minutes of rest. That's a 20-minute workout. And if you just did that as a workout, that's awesome. And then say you add 10 more minutes of carries. Now you're at a 30-minute workout and you're great. That's like literally day 1 of my workout program. And so, yeah, because of the full body nature of the movements and the high amount of volume you get with kettlebell training, you will see that you can get results from a very short period of time. And that's the whole 1 hour a week. I know it sounds almost too good to be true, but if you take everything I say here, a handful of exercises, 2 full body workouts a week, and 30-minute workouts, that is 1 hour a week to see the strength, the cardio, the muscle, and the mobility that you've been wanting in your life. And yeah, I think training like a minimalist is the way to go, because we are regular people who simply want to feel and move better. We want to spend time with our families. We want to spend time on our careers. We want to spend time on our hobbies. We just want fitness to integrate with life. And I think the majority of people would benefit from this minimalist type of training. But I think a lot of messaging we often get about fitness is the maximalist approach, which I think is great if you absolutely love fitness. I'm not trying to tear that approach down. But there's nothing wrong with not loving fitness and just wanting to, get your kettlebell workout in and move on with your day. The minimalist approach is great. And I really recommend changing this training mindset, these training principles for you. And I can really guarantee that it's going to change the way you work out, and it's going to keep you working out for weeks, for months, for years, and hopefully even decades. And so, yeah, that's my message for you today. I hope it helped you. Yeah, let me know your thoughts on minimalist training. If this video, changed your mindset around training, if you've been kind of training like a minimalist, yeah, just would love to hear your experience. I've been learning so much from the comments that I've been getting on these kettlebell videos, because I'm just a regular person. I'm not an expert here. I'm just someone who loves kettlebells and, and has just worked out with them a lot. So I know something, but I definitely don't know everything. Yeah, just please share your thoughts and I'd love to hear it. So next I have a few other kettlebell videos that are going to be on this side. I guarantee I think one of them will be helpful. You know, they cover benefits, the what the hell effect, and even workout programs and exercise selection. So choose one, and I think it'll help you.